Today I am going to be back out here with my DPMS A-15 Panther Bull Classic that I've made some modifications to over the years. Now this rifle was originally purchased back in 2001 to 2002 time frame. It was during the assault weapons ban, so everything had to be ordered in a post-ban configuration, which means no bayonet lugs, no threaded muzzles on it. The only thing you could have was a detachable box magazine and a pistol grip, so there was no collapsible stocks, nothing like that was allowed. So this is going to be a rifle that is probably pushing 24 to 22 years old right now. The only alterations I made was I took the A2 buttstock off, installed a PRS Magpul flat dark earth, had a buddy of mine Duracoat all the other metal on the gun flat dark earth, and then I installed a Troy Industries MFR, a 13.8 inch free floated rail, and then I made an alteration to the trigger on it and installed a Geisley high-speed match trigger with I believe it's the match springs in it, so it's the lightest trigger. Going to be doing some shooting with AAC once again. Going to be testing 5-round groups at 100 yards and see what kind of accuracy we get. Alright, that's 5 rounds. The rifle did lock back, which is always good to see. Now again, I have not made any other alterations to the internals on this gun. When I ordered it with a titanium nitride bolt carrier assembly, and that's held up very well for me. I've shot a lot of rounds through this gun. Back when I purchased this, you could go to Kmart and pick up 20 rounds of UMC 55 grain full metal jackets for $3.99 a box at 20. So obviously back then I could really run a lot of ammunition through it and not spend a lot of money. But unfortunately that's not the case anymore. So I'll be testing out some more AAC. It's been a fairly affordable ammunition for what you're getting for what they advertise as match rounds. So I guess we'll go down, take a look at the target, and see how reliable that is for match ammo. Okay. That little black spot down there on the lower section, that lower right-hand quadrant, that would be a fly. But as you can see, my 5 shots are roughly around an inch. Very respectable 1-inch group. Kind of looks like I've got a stringing effect, which would be the result of a bedding issue with a rifle. But since this is a free-floated forend, it's more than likely just me. As I've mentioned in several other videos, I don't shoot as much as I used to. But I do a lot of coyote hunting. Haven't managed to get any of them in a crosshair lately, but as we can see, this rifle should still be able to do it. Okay, so next up, I've got 77 grain OTM rounds by AAC. This rifle is a 1-in-9 twist barrel, and it is a 223 Remington chamber. Now I believe this ammunition is a 5.56 NATO. So I don't recommend shooting NATO rounds out of 223 chambered firearms. This one has unfortunately had a lot of NATO ammunition run through it. Like I said, I've had it for well over 20 years, and back in the early days, I didn't realize there was a pretty big pressure difference between 223 and 5.56 NATO. But I'm pretty sure that the throat is wore out enough on this now, and as marginal condition as to what the barrel is, the barrel's getting to the point where it's starting to get shot out, and it's still able to hold an inch group. It used to regularly shoot under an inch, usually around a half inch with hand-loaded ammunition. But we're going to throw some 77 grain rounds and see how they do. That is 5 rounds. The bolt, of course, did hold open. Pretty much back when I purchased this rifle, I don't even think you could order a 5.56 chambered rifle. I think everything that was available in an AR platform was a 223 Remington. They didn't pay that close attention to a lot of stuff when it came to the post-band stuff. I think probably looking at it being a 5.56 NATO made it sound too evil and military, so they didn't want to advertise anything like that. And I think back then, I don't know if it was that big of an issue, because most of the ammunition you were going to be finding was going to be loaded to a 223 Remington spec. Now, another thing to take into consideration was this rifle was originally made with a free float barrel, of course, that had an aluminum handguard, and it was actually an A2. It had the carry handle and a fixed front sight, and still had the bull barrel. Gas block on this is a .936 diameter gas block with a rounded inch diameter barrel back underneath the handguard here. This would be definitely a target or a bull barrel contour. So it was pretty interesting to see that they had a rifle set up like that. When I ordered this, I don't even think they had an A3 flat top available yet. I think that was just starting to come down the pipe. You'd see them regularly available, usually around probably the 2002 on. I want to say I ordered this in 2000, but I'll have to try to do some research and find out exactly when I did get it. Okay, before we had the 5 rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that were shot, the 69 grain, and these are the 77. I'd say a little bit tighter, probably around 3/4 of an inch at 100 yards. Still a pretty decent group. 2 touching there, another 2 touching, and 1 just off to the side. Definitely got to say that I don't think it's got too many issues with being able to shoot these out of a 1 in 9 twist barrel. That looks pretty good. Now, staple up another target. Now it's going to be the Daniel Defense MK12, and we're going to see how that shoots the 69 grain AAC and the 77 grain AAC. Had to wait a couple hours for the sun to go behind the clouds here. We're going to shoot 5 rounds of 69 grain OTM through a Daniel Defense MK12. Five rounds fired. the bolt lock to the rear, which is always good to see. We'll go down and take a look at the target before we switch over to these 77 grain OTM rounds. Say those 69 grain OTM rounds by AAC didn't do too bad. I'm still calling it maybe a little over a MOA group or right at 1 MOA at 100 yards. We've got 4 rounds easily within a 3/4 inch spread or close to a 1/2 inch spread, with one just a little bit off to the left hand side. All in all, I'd have to say that's pretty good considering the rest I'm shooting off of isn't the most steady. Now last up, I have my 77 grain OTM rounds by AAC loaded up. That'll be the 5 rounds of 77 grain OTM by AAC. Now this is a Daniel Defense MK12, chambered in 5.56. It's got a 1 in 7 twist, cold hammer forged barrel made out of stainless steel. It put Magpul grip panels on it. I didn't change out the ambidextrous charging handle that came on it from factory. I did replace the ambi safeties that they had with Radian Talon safeties. I put a Magpul oversized magazine release on it, and on the other side I have a Norgin ambi magazine release on it. God, what else have I done? Still got the original Geisley SSA trigger in it, 2-stage trigger. It's not a bad trigger, but it's still heavier than what the high speeds that I run in some of my other AR platforms that I've got. Other than that, I've got a 3x15 Burris XTR2 on it with the SCAR MOA reticle. All adjustments are in MOA on all of my optics. I try to keep all that the same. At shooting, I had both optics tuned up to 10x magnification. The scope that's on my DPMS 20-inch is a 5.5 to 16.5. Of course, that's got a 1-inch tube on that. This has got a 34mm tube, a 50mm objective lens on the Burris here, where the Nikon Monarch has a 44-inch, I believe, for an objective lens. That has a adjustable objective on it. This, of course, is a side focus, which most adjustable objective, or I should say adjustable optics now all are side focus, as opposed to AO is the adjustable objective. That's something they've gone over to with current specs on hardware. Other than that, I've got a PRS light stock on my Daniel Defense rifle right now, and actually back in the buffer tube is an A5 I installed on it with a A2, an H2 I should say, A5 buffer on it. And I also put a Myad grip on it by Magpul and the Magpul aluminum oversized trigger guard. So that'll be everything that I've kind of changed out on my Daniel's Defense rifle. Let's go down and take a look at the target and see how the 77 grains performed. I'll have to make this quick. Looks like it's starting to rain a little bit, so good thing I pretty much concluded on my accuracy test here, testing out the 77 grain OTM rounds by AAC. We've got a 3-round group here, just a little bit about 1.5 inches above the bullseye. Another round impacted here left, and then another one about another inch above the original 3-round group. Now this group here was from the 69 grain. That 69 grain group there is around a 1 MOA group. The 77 is shooting about a 2 MOA group. Now traditionally what I'll be using a lot of my 5.56 rifles for is going to be any kind of predator hunting, coyote, or just taking care of varmints, skunks. Pretty much is one of my most popular things to go after, and raccoon. Now I have used 5.56 before for hunting larger game such as whitetail. I do find it is adequate within a 300 yard and in range. Now with that being said, the 77 grain, I would not trust that with trying to shoot something the size of a whitetail with it, because the likelihood of wounding it as opposed to getting a nice clean ethical kill is going to be a lot lower. With a 2 MOA group at 100, you're going to be looking at 300 at max, you're going to be around a 6-inch group, and that's getting outside the vital range that I'm comfortable with using a cartridge on that size. Now with coyote, something like that, I mean, definitely would be just outside the limit of what I would be using too. But I'll definitely be going with the 69 grainers, I think, going forward, just since the majority of my 5.56 rifles they have shot the best with those. The next one I'm going to be doing a video on is the X95 Tavor. I'm going to do a test on that using the AAC ammunition. Again, I am getting low on what I purchased for the 69 and the 77, but I want to do a comparison on that before the Super Sabre trigger pack and then after, and see if there's any accuracy difference between that with that Geisley Super Sabre trigger pack. So be looking for that to come out within the next couple weeks, and hopefully I can get this video all put together and get that out probably within the next week or so. Stay tuned, and thank you for stopping by and checking out my channel.